Good morning, everybody. Carmichael Dave and Matt George in for, or Kyle Madson and Matt George in for Carmichael Dave.
Who knows anymore?
Carmichael Dave out sick today. Texted us very late last night. And this is how you know he's not feeling well, because Dave typically does a very good job of alerting us early in the evening that he won't be available.
Yeah, I found this out at 4 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, I as well. I got a text from Dave last night. I went and saw the new Fantastic Beasts movie. Got the early press screening. It was wonderful.
Ooh, I'm Kyle Madson.
It was a really fun movie.
Screenings.
But when I got out of the movie at 9:45, I got a text from Dave that said, "Hey, can you jump in the rundown at all tonight?" So I thought, all right, he's still in Chico. He's not going to get back till late, because Dave, of course, made his supply drive up to Chico yesterday to help out his buddy Dan and anyone else that he could help out there. And I woke up I was with you at 4 o'clock this morning with a text from Dave at 11:30 that said, "Hey, can you guys do this today? I'm not feeling well." So we certainly hope that Dave will be feeling better by the end of the day and that he'll be able to finish out the week tomorrow. It's Thursday, November 15th, 6:04 in the morning. And no Carmichael Dave for today. Like I said, we're certainly wishing him the best because he did spend his day yesterday in Chico helping gather supplies, taking supplies up to those affected by the campfire up in Paradise and the surrounding areas up there in Northern California. And he's been on social media, and we've seen Dave and Grant and Doug and everybody here at the station with the Do One Thing challenge is what they're calling it. Find one thing you can do to help people, help victims of the campfire. And that's a good message to have, to make it one, like if doing one thing versus relying on other people, relying on, the American Red Cross or any of the other numerous organizations that are there helping provide relief for people and families. If everybody else did one, even a small thing, would add up to a pretty impactful, add up to something pretty impactful. Like, I woke up this morning and it really hit me this morning just how lucky I am and we are to be far enough south of the devastation and north of the devastation down in Southern California. I woke up this morning. I've been checking the AQI, the air quality index, every day just to kind of see what it's going to be like outside, because it's been smoky in this area for a week now as the smoke travels south. But the AQI has gotten up, at least as of this morning when I woke up at 4 a.m., the AQI in Sacramento was 218. That is in the very unhealthy level, and it's the only level higher than that on the air quality index is hazardous. The NFL cancels games at 200. They say these are not conditions suitable to play football. And the AQI in Sacramento this morning was 218. I think it's expected to sit around 184 today. And I got to check that from the comfort of my home. And it really dawned on me that while I sit here and I worry about, what's the air quality like? There are people who are in not only worse air quality, but now without their homes. And I hope that I'm going to find a way to, I'll donate goods. I know that Dave was saying the other day that his uncle, I believe, works for the Red Cross. or FEMA or one of the two. And he said they don't need clothes. Like, that's the first thing that always comes in, and they just have too many clothes. But baby wipes, diapers, non-perishable food items, sleeping bags, pillows, tents, supplies that can help. I'm certainly gonna round up some of those and find a way to get them up to Chico. I believe Dave is trying to put together, and I'll confirm this with him and announce it later in the show, but I believe he's trying to put together a caravan up north to drop off supplies. I know he's got his big Hoblet Dodge Ram that he's going to fill up with supplies again. I know he did that yesterday, but I think he's trying to get more supplies up there. So that's just one of those things where I see like a hurricane hits Texas, and I see people, donating money and all, donate money and stuff. But the idea of I've never seen a community come together the way I've seen communities try and help those impacted by the Camp Fire. And I really like the idea of everybody doing one thing. And that's something that I know Dave and Grant, and I also saw Doug yesterday really pushing that on social media. Just everybody do one thing. I know our buddy Mike Barnbaum said he's going to donate blood. And I think he said platelets as well. It's supplies, money, gift cards, really anything that you can provide, even if it's small, will help. And that's just something that I really hope we can get across today, both on this station, on social media. If you're listening right now and you're heading into work, grab a basket or a bucket and try and just fill it with supplies, and then bring it here to the station, and we'll figure out a way to get it up north. So I just wanted to start with that today, because like I said, I was sitting there in bed going, oh, wow, this air quality index today. And it's like, dude, I have zero to complain about. I have absolutely nothing to complain about. So that's how today's show's starting.
Well, it's easy to forget, too, to sneak in that tragedy doesn't work as a news cycle. This doesn't just go away in a week and a half. Even when the air clears up, we're talking about a week from today is Thanksgiving. We'll be sitting around our tables, and these people don't have tables to sit around, or hopefully they find a place to go or have family to invite them or take them in because their homes have been burnt. And then we're talking about, like, this is not going to go away by Christmas. This is not going to go away by New Year's. This is still going to be impacted. So we're not talking about just affecting and helping people today and then tomorrow they're back up on their feet. This is providing hope and help for those who, quite honestly, could be without homes and trying to figure this out for months, hopefully less than a year. I mean, we talk about students as well. I mean, imagine being a high school student, being in the thick of your school year, approaching the end of your first term, if you work on like the two-term systems, and your school's gone and your education's put on hold, and now you have to be an adult and help your family survive, help your community survive. I can't even imagine. So this is not something that's just going to go away immediately. So in any way, how you can affect and help today, tomorrow, and then keep an eye on weeks and months down the line. This is going to be something that is going to take a long time to recover, but the more people there, the faster that process will be. So congratulations and thank you to everybody who has helped, and to all of anybody who may be listening that was in that area or has been directly affected by the fires and the tragedy. Stay strong. You guys are heroes and better than really, or have handled this better than most people would. So keep on your feet, and you got help behind you.
Yeah, and I want to let everybody know, to help those affected by the Camp Fire, you can go to khtk.com. You can click on the Salvation Army logo. There you'll see a list of items and ways to donate. This Monday, Studio Movie Grill is offering 10% of all proceeds from all ticket and food purchases to American Red Cross wildfire relief efforts. Visit khtk.com to learn how to help. And one more real quick thing before we hit the break. I know we got to get out of here, but one more real quick thing. I mentioned the air quality index today in Sacramento. It was 218 early this morning. It's supposed to sit at like 184. Please keep that in mind when you're letting your kids run around outside or you're letting your pets outside. Please keep that in mind because the air quality is getting very bad here in Sacramento. We do have a sports show for you today. Despite none of the area teams playing, there's a lot going on. We've got Packers Seahawks tonight. LeBron James moves up again on the all-time scoring list. Jimmy Butler made his 76ers debut. And more Le'Veon Bell news. We've got more info on the Kevin Durant, Draymond Green beef. And then we've got Sam Amick at 8 o'clock to discuss all the happenings in the NBA. And then our question of the day, we're going to revisit our question of the day from yesterday because, Matt, I want to have a discussion with you about it. It's what's your belief point for the Kings? At what point do you say, yes, this team is turning the corner, they're going to make the playoffs? At what point this season do you see that happening? All that coming up next on The Drive. It's Thursday morning, everybody. Kyle Madson and Matt George filling in for Carmichael Dave on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Single safety high Miami. Soft coverage on the corner. Snap to Rodgers on second down at 25. Lofts right side. Got Adams at the 5. Cuts it back. End zone. High-stepping touchdown. Devontae Adams popped wide open. 26-yard touchdown catch.
Actually, voice guy, it's not Carmichael Dave. It's Kyle Madson and Matt George filling in for Carmichael Dave. Dave a little bit under the weather after his trip up north to drop off supplies in Chico yesterday. That was a Green Bay Packers highlight because the Packers are at the Seattle Seahawks tonight. The Packers come in at 4-4-1. The Seahawks come in at 4-5. Green Bay just on the outside looking in at the playoff picture, as are the Seahawks. Seattle tied with Atlanta, Dallas, and Philadelphia at 4-5. Green Bay at 4-4-1 is just behind the Vikings for that sixth and final spot. So an important Thursday night game. It's happening in Seattle, and we'll discuss this a little bit more later, but this is effectively a playoff game for these two teams.
See, and I get the playoff implications. This NFL season's been just a drag for me this year, and a lot of it probably has to do, and I'm openly admitting with the fact that both Bay Area teams are bad, but especially the Oakland Raiders of Las Vegas or wherever the hell they are, right, are bad. But this NFL season just has dragged for me, and it's we're in what, week 11 now, or is it week 10?
Week 11.
Yeah, we're week 11 now, and it's going by quickly. We're well over the hump. The trade deadline passed, and I half wasn't aware of it. For some reason, just these marquee matchups have had little appeal for me. Sunday night football is probably the most football that I've watched consistently this year. I'll pay attention to this one just because of the playoff implications. But man, I don't know what it has been about this NFL year, but it has just dragged for me.
I like what the NFL's done with their primetime games because we were seeing this trend where the Thursday night game was always like a bad matchup because Thursday night games are kind of ugly in general. But the NFL has now, it looks like anyways, really tried to make the primetime matchups, their Thursdays, their Sundays, their Mondays, like good matchups. At least they're trying.
Their Mondays haven't been very good.
True. But
Mondays have been really bad, actually.
But you can see them trying to put together some strong matchups on these primetime games and letting the Sundays drag a little bit.
Yeah, Thursdays just on paper have been significantly better matchup-wise. Yeah. But still, the quality of football, I mean,
it's not quite there.
There have been a handful of games, but this just across the board, even the good teams don't feel that entertaining to me. But again, I'm a little biased with how bad my team is at the moment.
We'll dive a little bit further into Packers-Seahawks later on. Packers-Seahawks tonight, kickoff on these airwaves. I believe coverage begins at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
Right here on Sports 1140. Brew number 2.
LeBron, here he goes into the lane. Hang count, if it goes, it goes! He's tied Wilt for number 5, and he can pass him with a free throw. Now with this free throw, LeBron James to become the 5th leading scorer in NBA history, passing the great Wilt Chamberlain. Number 5.
Hey, LeBron James made a free throw.
Yay.
That's brew number 2. No, LeBron James passes Wilt Chamberlain for number 5 on the all-time scoring list. LeBron needed 38 points. He dropped 44. He was 13 of 19 from the floor, 5 of 6 from 3. He was 13 of 15 from the free throw line. He also added 10 rebounds, 9 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks. Heck of a game for LeBron James as the Lakers look like they're starting to figure it out. They're up to 8-6. They beat the Blazers last night, 126-117, thanks in large part to LeBron's 44 points. And it feels like he's been coasting all year, but then he got to within striking distance of Wilt's record and decided, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to pretend like it's May, and I'm going to try this game. And that's what happens. 44, 10, and 9, 3 blocks. And LeBron James now number 5 on the all-time scoring list. He's behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, of course, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan is up next. And the day he passes Michael Jordan, Twitter might break.
Well, I think we have many that are anxiously pre-typing out their tweets for that day. All those numbers that LeBron James put up last night, and still he found a way to complain through the entire game. But the Los Angeles Lakers are significantly better. I think the people are not giving enough attention and credit to the Tyson Chandler pickup, just what he brought to them and what he has brought to them. Now, he's not going to blow you away with any kind of particular number in any kind of stat column, but I've always been a fan of Tyson Chandler. He affects teams in a positive way. People forgot how freaking good he was on that Dallas Mavericks championship team. Now, I'm aware that was a long time ago, and we're talking about a significantly older Tyson Chandler. But that rotation of Chandler and McGee, they both protect the rim, they both rebound, They do what they're supposed to do in limited minutes, and he's really helped this team. And suddenly they've turned it around, and the narrative of is Luke Walton on the way out has disappeared behind LeBron James is now number 5 on all-time scoring.
Yeah, they needed help at that center spot. They just needed some depth, and they got it with Tyson Chandler. LeBron James now 857 points behind Michael Jordan for number 4 on the all-time scoring list. Let's get to brew number 5. Brew number 3, that is.
2 minutes gone by. Jimmy goes back door. Butler hangs, puts it up. Remy, good. Jimmy Butler with his first basket as a Sixer. Going left to right and B with a good dish.
Jimmy Butler made his Sixers debut last night, and shockingly, they lost. They fell 111-106 to the Magic down in Orlando. Jimmy Butler went 6 of 12 from the field. He was 0 of 1 from 3, had 14 points, 4 rebounds, a couple assists. Is this a matter of Butler just not being in the flow of things in Philly yet, you think?
Probably. I mean, I think it's too early to make any kind of decision, but there's naturally going to be people that are anti-Butler because of how everything was handled in Minnesota, and so they see a 14-point performance and a loss, and they think, okay, you want to be treated and paid like a max deal superstar like you are, but you're supposedly one of the best two-way players in the league, but you can't score more than 14 points in a loss. I get it. I understand. He was also very underwhelming in the Iman Shumpert gave him trouble here in Sacramento, and that's no disrespect to Iman Shumpert. Shumpert's probably the best defender that the Kings have, but Butler didn't look engaged in either of these games. I mean, he looked like he was trying to figure things out with a new team. If we want to talk about anything from the Sixers, talk about another triple-double for Joel Embiid, who continues to look fantastic. I also saw a tweet now that Ben Simmons has now become the Chris Bosh for this Philadelphia 76ers team, and that could not be more asinine and ass backwards. That's ridiculous. If
That's
anything,
insane.
if anything, that's Jimmy Butler. I mean, this is Ben Simmons' team and Joel Embiid's team, and Jimmy Butler has been added to that. And Jimmy did not like how he was added to this young core of Minnesota. We saw how that played out. Now he's added to a new young core, but this young core has actually gotten there without you before. Right. So you're supposed to help them along, not take them over. So 14 points and a loss, disappointing for Butler, but I mean, I don't expect it's going to be that bad consistently.
Yeah, I think he'll certainly get better as he integrates with that team more. Another side story to all this that I think will be tracked all year is how the Timberwolves do. Sans Jimmy Butler. They beat the Pelicans 107-100 last night. Karl Anthony Towns, 25 points, 16 rebounds, 3 assists, a couple of blocks. Andrew Wiggins, 23 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. He was 4 of 9 from 3, 8 of 22 from the floor. It's going to be fascinating to see how those two play moving forward without Jimmy Butler. And I think Timberwolves versus 76ers is going to be kind of a faux matchup really all year as people try and dissect who won that trade and really how that all turned out. I want to get to our question of the day from yesterday. I want to get into it today with you, Matt, because this is a interesting topic that I really want to get your thoughts on. Is what's your belief point for the Kings? At what point are you fully in on this team? Because there seems to be a lot of waiting for the bottom to fall out on this season. The Kings are 8-6. They don't play again until tomorrow. But I want to find out yours and then listeners. The Jiffy Lube text line at 441140. You can give us a call at 339-1140 or 1-800-920-1140. That's the Fire Wings hotline. Try one of their delicious flavors of wings today. Fire Wings, just wing it. You can give us a call, shoot us a text. Let us know what your belief point is for the Kings. Are you already there? Do you need another month? Do you need 2 months? Is it half a season? Is it the All-Star break? At what point are you fully in on this Kings team? We got to hit the break. When we come back, that's what we'll talk about. Your belief point for the Kings. It's Kyle Madson and Matt George on the drive. It's Sports 1140 KHGK.
This is Matt George with your top stories on Sports 1140. We got Thursday night football action tonight for you on Sports 1140 KHDK. A potential playoff implication game here as the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks battle in Seattle. We have kickoff for you just after 5 o'clock. Pre-game coverage begins at 5. You can catch all of the action immediately following the Grant Napier Show right here on Sports 1140 KHDK. Now it's time for more of the drive, but first it's time to go solar with Sierra Pacific. It's your last chance to get that 30% tax credit for 2018. Call Sierra Pacific now, 800-551-3040.
Here we go. The drive continues now.
There's Zion Williamson highlights on the TV right now. We got to talk about Zion. Because I'm college basketball guy who doesn't care about college basketball until March. But Zion Williamson is making it really hard to not tune into at least a little bit of college basketball. The guy's freaking incredible. I think he's 32 for 39 from the field this year. And part of that's because he dunks a lot, but man, he is an incredible player. Want to get to our drive question of the day. It's something we brought up yesterday and didn't really get a chance to get into, so I wanted to get into it today. What's your belief point for the Kings? Because they're 8-6. It's a decent sample size of games, but it's not 50 or 60 games where they're still in the hunt for a playoff spot. So I want to know at what point, I want to get the pulse of the Kings fan, at what point are we looking at this team and going, oh, this is a playoff team. Like this is a team that could legitimately fight for a playoff spot, because right now after every Kings win, all I see all over social media with Kings fans is just waiting for the bottom to fall out of this thing. That's a cool win, but just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I know not everybody feels that way, but that seems to be the prevailing thought. So I want to see what everybody's kind of thinking rather than just my Twitter timeline. Matt, I'm sure you have thoughts on this. I want to jump over to the Fire Wings hotline real quick. I know Jerry's been waiting. Jerry, what's going on, man?
Hey, making the drive, listening to the drive. Thanks, guys.
I love it.
Hey, the saying goes, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and that's what I firmly believe. I will fully probably jump on the Kings and think good spots probably about halfway through the season.
So 41 games, if they're still in the playoff hunt, that's when you're all the way in?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I'm all the way in now as far as my heart goes.
Sure.
My brain says differently, though.
All right, very good. 41 games. Appreciate you, Jerry. That seems about right, actually. Like halfway, that midway point where you've kind of seen everybody, you've played everybody, the good teams are starting to separate themselves from the bad teams. And if you're still in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range and staying within 2 or 3 games of a playoff spot, I think that's a decent area.
Yeah, and at that point, it's not just about what the Kings' record is and how they're doing. It's how the West is shaping up as well, because then you get a pretty good idea at that point, okay, what is it going to take to be an 8th seed? Because it's always different in the Western Conference. We have, I think the top 9 or 10 in the West right now are over 500. So, I mean, you'll get a good indication. At some point, some of these teams are going to start to lose and more will start to win, and you'll see some separation, because with the exception of the guys at the top, the Golden State Warriors, and then who's right below them? I don't even remember who's all the way up there with him. But besides the Golden State Warriors, everybody else is pretty comfortably over 500, but it's a mix. Everybody's within a game to 2 games of one another. So right now it's an open pack. By that time you'd expect to have lines more firmly drawn. For me, it's the end of December. If we're going into the calendar year, if we're changing calendars and going to 2019 and the Sacramento Kings are over 500 or at 500, at that point I'm ready to say, okay, I believe they can make a run, because they still have to prove 2 things to me, but they're in the act of proving one thing right now, that they can hang and beat good teams on any given night if they play well enough. And they're showing that through this 10-game stretch. Now, there's still more to come, a lot more difficult games to come. I still think the hardest part of this stretch is right over the horizon, which is the Jazz twice and the Golden State Warriors in between that. But I also need this team to prove to me that they can consistently beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And in the beginning of December, they have a lot of games that are very winnable based off of how they've been playing so far. If they make it through December and win those games and are, let's say, 2 to 6 games above 500 by the time they reach 2019, at that point I'm like, okay, make a move at the trade deadline. Let's go for it.
Yeah, you mentioned beating the teams they should beat. Let's assume they keep doing that. But we talked about this ad nauseum last show. At Memphis, at Houston, they've got Oklahoma City, Utah twice, Golden State. And then before the end of December, they have Indiana twice. They have Golden State again. They've got Minnesota in Minnesota. They get OKC again, another game against Memphis, another game against New Orleans. Then they wrap up December with 2 against LA. I think you get through December, and this is their chance to either firmly establish themselves in the race, or they're going to find themselves way out of it. But I have a hard time believing we're going to see them like 4 or 5 games back after the end of December. I think they're going to be way out of it, where it's like, all right, let's start looking to next year. Or they're going to be right in it where we get the collective belief from Sacramento that this team is going to do something special and snap that 12-year playoff drought.
See, I don't think that this team will be way out of it by that point, and I also need to revisit beginning of the season expectations and what we labeled to be successful. To me, it's still, with how great this team is playing right now, if they still end the season, let's say they fall out of the playoff race just naturally by the fact that other teams are just better than them.
Sure.
If they still win 35-plus games, if they win more games this season than they ever won with DeMarcus Cousins, that's a home run of a season for me. Vlade keeps his job, Jaeger keeps his job, and then you just keep trying to build upon it. And it'll also depend on what the Kings try and do at the trade deadline, because I think there's some options out there at small forward that the Kings have really good opportunity to use their cap space that they have right now and take on a contract and take on a small forward that can help them in the near future instead of trying to gamble and go for it in free agency. But that's still my goal, and that still will be my goal. If the Kings make the playoffs this year and sneak into the 8th seed, that's a grand slam cherry on top. But if they can top wins or get a better win total than they ever got with DeMarcus Cousins, fans need to recognize that is a colossal home run of a year.
Yeah, and just it's so tough because when you look at the West, you mentioned this earlier, the Warriors at the top, followed by the Blazers and the Nuggets. Those are 3 playoff teams. Mm-hmm. Those are 3 teams that are you can pencil them in. Oklahoma City Thunder sitting at the 4 spot. OKC is 9-1 in their last 10 games. They're really rolling. They're up to 9-5. Memphis, okay. That might be a team currently at the 5 spot that drops out. But then after
they beat the Bucks last night in Milwaukee. I mean, this team, they did not look impressive in Sacramento, but they're good.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. can play, man. But then after that, you've got the Clippers. The Clippers I could absolutely see hanging around and grabbing one of those final couple playoff spots. Then there's the Lakers sitting at the 7th seed, and then you've got the Kings at the 8th. That's currently. Here are the teams that are not in the playoffs right now. the Spurs, the Jazz, the Pelicans, and the Rockets. And I guess you can throw in the Timberwolves if you want.
2 of those 4 teams have already beaten you.
Like that is those should all be playoff teams.
Welcome to the West.
I mean, that's where things get dicey for me, where it's like, okay, let's really wait and see where the Kings are at, because it's not even an indictment on the Kings. It's that these other teams have been rebuilding and have their roster set and playoff experience and veterans and all-stars. Like, there's just teams just better equipped to make runs.
The bottom 3 seeds of the Eastern Conference this year are going to once again spark the conversation of playoff reform. Mm-hmm. Because if this trend continues with the amount of teams in the West that are at or over 500, but out of the playoff picture or barely scratching in, and there's going to be the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference this year is probably going to be at least 8 to 9 games under 500. I mean, that's just I'm pretty confident.
The Magic are the 8th
that.
seed right now at 7 and 8.
The Magic are the 8th seed. That's all you need to know about the Eastern Conference. I like the conference system personally. I'm also like traditional. I don't like that much change. But honestly,
understandable. As
this year continues, we are going to get to the point where everybody is diving full on into the top 16 team playoff reform idea.
Yeah, and given how progressive the NBA is, if any league is going to do that, I think they would be the ones to do it first. We got to get out of here. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers yesterday took it upon themselves to clean out his locker for him, and some odds came out on the local teams and their chances to sign the Steelers All-Pro running back. We'll get into that, and then maybe dive a little bit into Thursday Night Football as we get a rematch of the famed Fail Mary game in Seattle from a few years back. All that's coming up next. It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK. Kyle Madson filling in for Carmichael Dave. It's The Drive on Sports 1140. Matt George alongside me, or I guess across from me technically. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Want to remind everybody you can drop off fresh or frozen turkeys to the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services and help make sure thousands of families in need are able to enjoy a holiday meal this Thanksgiving. The 1140 Street Team will be helping collect donations from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at 3333 3rd Avenue in Sacramento. Details at khtk.com. Wanted to get into this Le'Veon Bell situation. Matt, did you see this video yesterday of his teammates raiding his locker after he did not report on Tuesday's deadline?
I actually didn't.
So Le'Veon Bell, if you didn't know, missed the deadline. Week 11, Tuesday of Week 11 by 1 p.m. Pacific is the deadline for him to report, sign his franchise tag so he can be eligible to play this season. He missed that deadline. His chances to play this season are done. Le'Veon Bell's not coming back. If you have him in fantasy, drop him. He's gone.
He's committed.
He is. So the Steelers, yesterday, a video came out from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN of the Steelers rummaging through Le'Veon Bell's locker. And I did not check this for edits, so I'm not going to play it. But there were reports that teammates were rummaging through his stuff, taking his cleats. There was this like undrafted practice squad guy who had 2 shelves full of Le'Veon Bell's shoes. They took his nameplate. And they're Jordan brand cleats, too. Linebacker Bud Dupree was on film saying that he's trying to get Le'Veon Bell's dead leg right so he can be a running back. And Jeremy Fowler, who was in the locker room, said that it seemed more playful than anything.
Yeah, this seems like something that we'd make a run of and try and make a bigger deal out of than what it really is. Le'Veon Bell will be just fine if he doesn't get his cleats back.
Right, and if it was that big of a deal, he would have showed up to get his stuff.
He would have had more.
He didn't pay for those cleats. He didn't pay for that name.
He's got every manager on the planet that can come and collect his stuff for him.
The bigger thing, Fowler said, also found in Bell's locker a mixtape CD labeled Le'Veon Bell #1. Fascinating. I need the Lev Bell mixtape to drop. I know he had a song that was on the music app that I use. I know he had a song on there that was not great. I would listen to the whole mixtape. I need the entire mixtape. Like, what's he been doing? If you're not playing football, at least record some music and get it out there. I need the Steelers. If the Steelers are worth anything, that mixtape will be published ASAP. But if this is playful like Jeremy Fowler was saying it was, and not malicious, I don't think that mixtape will ever see the light of day unless Le'Veon Bell wants it to. Fowler also tweeted that players answered Bell's questions about Bell, but they were not super happy about it. Cam Hayward said that it's disappointing, quote, that we even talk about it. It sucks when a guy doesn't have to answer his own questions. If they weren't on the team, I'm not worried about it. And I think that's really the biggest issue for me. Like, I'm not going to blame Le'Veon Bell for, I guess, fighting back against an NFL contractual system that allows a team to just sign a guy to a one-year deal over and over and over again and forces that player to sign it and doesn't give him the agency to go out and seek a bigger contract.
Yep.
A longer-term, more secure contract. So I have a hard time blaming him there. Where I do have, I guess, a little bit of an issue is the fact that he did leave. Those are his teammates. Those are guys that he shared a locker room with for 4 or 5 years now.
That's great.
And bailing on those guys, and like Cam Hayward said, we have to answer his questions. That stinks to me. And that doesn't outweigh the idea of like, dude, if taking a year off, if he thinks that taking this year off, getting healthy, hitting free agency, or the Steelers might transition tag him, which allows him to negotiate with other teams, then gives the Steelers the opportunity to match. If he hits free agency fully healthy with one less year of tread on his tires, good. Like, good for him. He's going to go get every dollar possible. And I guess I feel for his teammates.
No, the only thing I
dude, that sucks. They've had to answer Le'Veon Bell
so
questions
that's
for
the
10 weeks. Like, ugh.
That's the only area of his players that I sympathize with, or his teammates that I sympathize with. That the media is going to run with what the media runs with.
Sure.
It's still a prevalent story, so they're going to continue to ask.
Right.
I feel bad for the
journalists
players.
Are doing their jobs.
I feel bad for the players that have to deal with it, but that's the only thing about this team that are the players that I feel sorry for. What they need to understand is that Le'Veon owes them nothing. This brotherhood code, or whatever it is, written between teammates is an unwritten code. And also, what Le'Veon Bell is trying to do is something he has the stones to do, what the Players Association failed at. And what everybody time and time again is, Le'Veon Bell is doing this for his teammates. He's doing this for every athlete in the NFL today. Yeah, because if he can't get paid, let's separate this. He can get paid through the franchise tag, but he can't get longevity of contract, which is what he wants.
Right.
If he can't get that from your organization, what the hell does that mean you're going to get? You're going to get nothing. This team is going to dump you like every other team would dump you as soon as you are no longer of value to them. You have the cream of the crop, one of the best two-way players on a two-way, as in two positions.
Sure.
Sorry. wide receiver and running back.
Sure.
You have one of the best in the league right here that your team continues to franchise tag. Why? Because they don't want to be on the books in case something goes wrong. They don't want to commit to him, but they expect him to commit to them. Also, not to mention, he was your teammate for 2, 3, 4 years, and he did nothing. I'm not saying that's on the players themselves and not on Le'Veon Bell, but you've had him there for a while, and the Steelers haven't done anything. He's run that course enough. He's already proven that he deserves to have a long-term contract. So if I'm his teammate, and this is easier for me to say because I'm not in the locker room and I'm not going to war with him, and I recognize that. I'm not trying to pretend like I know as good as those guys do. But if I'm them, I'm recognizing that he's doing something and standing up for something that someone had to do eventually if change wants to happen. The franchise tag makes sense from an organizational standpoint. And you know what? I don't blame the Steelers for exercising it. That's their right. That was agreed to them by the Players Association. But if I'm a teammate of Le'Veon Bell, I'm sitting here thinking, this guy is committed. He did not just, it's not about the money for him.
He lost out on $14.5 million.
He would have come back. If it was about the money, he would have come back already. That's not what it's about. Now, at this point, he is in a war of stubbornness and character, I suppose, to try and get what he believes he deserves, and he does deserve. He deserves.
The only way this is effective, though, is if something changes with the franchise tag rules. Like, that's the only way this works. Otherwise, this looks like Le'Veon Bell trying to get the most money for himself next year.
Well,
and less about battling the franchise.
Bell
tag.
has done more to open that door than anybody else in the NFL.
Has he though?
Yeah, he's challenged.
Because the
openly
Steelers are
challenged
fine with James Conner in there, and that could underscore the point to teams going, see, look, your running backs are not that valuable. Like, they're a dime a dozen.
Well, I don't think he's not doing what Le'Veon Bell could do and does. I mean, he's not putting up those type of. He's a great running back. Don't get me wrong. And you're right. The Steelers backdoored themselves into a pretty good situation.
Right.
Like
I think on accident.
Because going into this season, they were like, oh, crap, how are we going to fill a massive hole that is Le'Veon Bell? He's made it easier. But that's not a recipe for success at the NFL level. Like, the fact that these players like Le'Veon, it just drives me nuts that players like Le'Veon Bell cannot get contract security. I just think that's so backwards and unfair, and I commend Le'Veon for staying the course and for saying, you know what, it's not about the money, screw this. I started this, I'm going to finish this. It's not about the money, I'm not coming back. This is a statement that I'm making. I applaud him for having the stones to do that.
I hope it gets taken that way, and I hope some other players jump on board, and maybe this is a first small step in getting NFL players more guaranteed money and more guaranteed contracts. The Raiders are plus 500. This is according to Dave Mason of BetOnline.ag. The Raiders are plus 500, second best odds to land Le'Veon Bell.
God, I hope not.
The 49ers are plus 900, tied for the sixth best odds with the Colts. The Jets are the favorites at plus 300. That's 3-1. The Jets are the favorites. So Dave Mason of BetOnline.ag, not Dave Dees Mason of the Kings, thinks that the Raiders are one of the favorites to land the former Steelers running back. We got NBA drama. Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. Draymond Green was suspended for the Warriors game against the Hawks for things he said to Kevin Durant following Monday's loss to the Clippers. We got some more insight on that from The Athletic with Marcus Thompson. I want to read about that, or tell you guys about that over at The Athletic. And then Sam Amick's joining us at 8 o'clock. He will talk to us about the brewing Kevin Durant and Draymond Green beef and what it means long-term for the NBA, not just for the Warriors this season. That's coming up next on The Drive. It's Sports 1140 KSGK.